We are all created out of darkness because you need darkness to create, because darkness forms in, like, if you imagine a mother's womb, it's the same in the universe. You need some peace and quiet for a while, and the creator does need to, in essence, think about what the creator wants to do, whether you call that source or God or Lakshmi or any kind of a godlike figure that you like to think of. They all need to project their energy. I saw the angels that way, and I saw them as a ball of light with multiple layers of wings. I think the main thing that they want to convey also is that humans have free will. Okay, so an angel in either way, light or dark, can not agree with what you're doing, despite the purest or worst of intention, but it's your free will.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Shifting Dimensions podcast. This is a podcast where we explore the unseen, the unknown, and the transformative moments that shift our understanding of reality. I'm your host and spiritual and metaphysical investigator, Jumi Moses. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Katische Haberfield. I've had her on the show before. You probably listened to our episode where we talked about spirit releasement therapy and also entity attachments, which was a very good episode. I encourage you to go back and listen to it. But today, I have her back on the show to talk about her work with Archangels and how she works with them to guide her clients towards achieving a life of bliss and happiness, and really taking them on a journey where they can find what lights up their soul. So just a quick refresher again, Katische is a spirit releasement therapist, past life regression therapist, medium, author, and poet. She helps her clients free themselves from the limiting beliefs and constraints that are holding them back. She also takes her clients, with the assistance of the angels and archangels, like I mentioned, into other lifetimes and identifies moments of profound joy, offering unique insights into the nature of happiness. Katische, welcome back to Shifting Dimensions. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me again, Jimmy. It's a great pleasure. I'm sorry, there's so much energy in the room today that I hope I can get the words out.
That's good. I'm excited. I think this is going to be a great episode. Like I said earlier, I've been wanting someone on the show to talk about angels, how they work with angels. And I know it's a large topic. We're not going to cover everything today, but we're going to try to get out the most important things, right? So first, I have to ask you to start off, how did you start working with angels? What was the catalyst for that?
Not a single catalyst, but they have been shown to me symbolically through my childhood. And then I also visited lots of places that were associated with the angels. So for example, when I was a teenager and I was backpacking through Europe, Florence is a place where they paint cherubs and angels. It's in bookmarks, it's on book covers, it's on clothing, it's everywhere in Florence. I went to, in opposite the coastline of France, there's a beautiful castle walled town on the beach called Mont Saint-Michel, which has got the big cathedral and is known for the energy of Archangel Michael. I think it's also the place where they keep the sword that's associated with Archangel Michael that they only bring out once every couple of 100 years, and they did that on COVID. During the first lockdown on COVID, there was a special ceremony, and I think it was from there, and they brought out this beautiful historic sword that is associated with Archangel Michael. And legend said it's actually Archangel Michael's sword, and they only brought it out for the first time in several hundred years to help with the coronavirus. I have, you can't see it, just, which way is my hand? There is a postcard. I'll bring it over, hang on. That is, I think it's from the Vatican or somewhere like that. One of the religious places I went on my trip. So you can see, like, everywhere I go. Oh, and up here is, I don't think I can take it off, it's attached. There are two cherubs which are hand carved, which were given to me as a child from my ancestors, my relatives in Germany. So if you're looking for signs and you need signs to point you in the right direction, I would say that I was oblivious to those my entire life until recently, in the last few years, I went, well, geez, I collect a lot of angel stuff and I know all about the angel numbers and I seem to have them around me a lot. And one day I paid for a mediumship session with a lady who was helping me prove that I was a ghost rescue medium. So I'd crossed over a lot of stuck human beings, and I wanted to have somebody else see if they could bring them in to prove them. She said, well, before we do anything, I've got Archangel Michael here. And then she started laughing, and she says, Archangel Michael says, your purpose is to work with the angels. And I was like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense now. And so ever since that moment, I have been working towards where I am now, which is opening up to and understanding, working with the angels as requested.
So I want to level set for the audience, right? Because I think everyone is familiar with the term angels, but do we really understand what an angel is? So if you could describe what an angel is, and is an angel different from an archangel?
At its simplest form, everything is energy, right? So an angel is simply energy. But we humans here on Earth have ways that we like to visualize and understand and process. And we like to see energy in certain ways. So if you ask the angels, and I'll just jump forward a bit, how they see us, they would say, well, we don't see you as Katische in a green dress with your hair down. We see you as a ball of light. How do you see us? And we say, well, we see a shape that looks like a human and it's got wings. And from there, we humans have been painting and drawing what we've seen ever since, trying to make sense of the energy. But if you were wanting to correlate it to something, the wings are essentially like the aura of the energy. And so if you prefer, you can think of angels as something that looks like that. And that's, what resonates with me, and I think most people. Or if you need to, and you don't like to think of spiritual beings as anything other than energetic form, then think of them as the purest of energy, the brightest, the most vivid, the most clearest, shiniest energy that there ever was. And so the difference between an angel and an archangel has been basically set by and described in all the different religions of the world since time began. And so we humans like hierarchy and structure. And so the religions have described the archangels, like in the Abrahamic, so the Christian and the Judaic religions, as the messengers of gods in terms of a hierarchy. So these are the supreme beings. And, when you go through different religions, every religion has a hierarchy, and mostly it's all to do with interpreting the message and the word of God, and then also being sanctified or spiritual enough or religious enough or had enough training to be the direct communicator. And so the archangels were kind of like also the level below God if you wanted to have a hierarchy. But the way that they've explained it to me is simply, we were the first energy that was created, and that's why we are called the archangels. And from us, a replica was created. And so underneath that comes whatever other form of energy that you can discern. But human beings are a form of energy. And we are here, and we have taken a suit or a character, a role in a play called a human, called Jumi or Katische. And when we finish doing all our incarnations on this playground known as Earth, we can choose to be an angel as well. And that is reverting to the choice to be a pure form of energy that is of service. Or we might say, no, I want to come back and try something else again, or I want to go to another planet. But an angel is a pure being of energetic service to the world. And different people will have different beliefs around this, but this is the way that I have come to know and understand it. And this is the way that they have explained it to me when I have been deep in the theta state, the hypnotic state, the trance state. So that's what they explained to me when I did my recent podcast session, when I did the happiest moments of the soul, because I wanted to understand some of these questions. And so they showed me how they express themselves. And the beautiful thing about it is that you are a soul, you have your own way that you interpret things, and so that will be different from me as it is to you. And there is no right and wrong. What you just have to look out for is how the energy works with you, how you feel comfortable expressing it, and it's different for everybody. So there will be some commonalities, but they express it in what's relevant to you because they want you to understand the energy and for you to develop a relationship with an energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And when you're talking about the representation or how human beings see them, so to your point, I think a lot of, people see them as an outline of a human being who glows with wings, but other people have described them as some people have said that sometimes angels mask themselves to look that way so they look less scary, but some people have said that angels could take the form of like picture a big ball, but it's a bunch of eyes clumped together with wings. And that image
Yes.
itself is really scary. So if they were to appear to a human being in that form, that could be overwhelming. So I don't know if you've heard that as well.
Yes. So one of the first times I did a session where I went to, in a pre-recorded version of an Akashic record session. So I paid access to do an Akashic record session that a practitioner had already done, and she'd recorded it. And so you could just listen back and do it yourself. And the very first session that I went through with, I saw the angels that way. And I saw them as a ball of light with multiple layers of wings. And the reason that I saw them like that was because this Akashic record session had a healing session, and those wings, there were so many of them, wrapped themselves around me, and I could feel that. And I had an immediate emotional release. So, but that's the one and only time that I've seen them in that form. And I can't even remember what they're called in Christianity. It's not the cherubs. It's the ones higher than the archangels, the seraphim. So that was, to me, in my mind at that time, that was the seraphim that were wrapped around me. The archangels, so like Archangel Michael and the other archangels, the first times that they have come to me, like in a spiritual form, like where I was learning the energy, was at night. And it's a very different sensation than what I'm describing about where you personify the angels. So when I talk to them or communicate through them or channel them, I see them in a personified form because they want me to be relaxed about it, a bit like they're talking with a buddy. When they come at night to do spiritual work or spiritual healing for me, it is in energetic form and in color form, and it has sound, and it's very intense, and I see it through my third eye. So I hear this noise, and it comes into my third eye, and like Archangel Michael is very blue and very bright. And there's an image on Canva that if you type in angel or archangel, you'll see an energetic representation. It's black and then it's got blue. It's kind of like an aura in the shape of a cross between a cross, like Jesus's cross, and angel wings. That's exactly how I see it when it comes into my third eye. So, that's when they're coming into me to do healing, spiritual upgrades, things like that. But I don't see them like that in my waking day and when I'm doing my work. I see them then more as a feeling in the heart and a personified energy because they have a personality.
Interesting. So you said something that I wanted to focus on earlier, which is that their purpose is to be of energetic service to the world. What does that mean exactly, right? Because we hear of, for example, spirit guides as being of service to human beings. So do angels do the same thing that spirit guides do, or is their service completely different?
So the difference between a spirit guide and an angel, or an archangel, here we go. Let me just put it into categories here. Spirit guide, angel, archangel, okay? So a spirit guide and an angel can be the one and the same, just in a different incarnation, service-based incarnation. An archangel is different. So in my understanding so far, a spirit guide is somebody who you have either in your soul family or you have had an incarnation with in other dimensions or locations that has been and done their physical incarnations or their roles, and at this moment in time they have agreed, when you're in the in-between states, to come and be of service for you, to help guide you in a specific area of your life. So you can have many spirit guides on many different topics. Just as angels can have many different possibilities. So you can have a money angel, a cooking angel, a teaching angel, of whatever description you like. The difference is that a spirit guide you associate with, and you have a personification, a character. You know them as, like one of my clients, his spirit guide, he saw in a form like Jiminy the Cricket. And so the character from the cartoon, Jiminy the Cricket. So he saw that personified in his mind that way, and his Jiminy the Cricket spirit guide helped him with certain aspects. And another example would be have a client who's on the podcast, Isaiah, and goodness, I can't remember his name now. Oh, Banana Bangles. He makes her laugh. And she sees him in her mind as a young, like 18 to 20-year-old, good-looking guy. And they do fun things. And his purpose is to help her bring the joy back in her life, because she's quite serious and she's had a hard life in some aspects. And so he's there to bring frivolity and fun and laughter, to remind her of when she was a teenager, when she felt the most beautiful. An angel, on contrast to generic angel that you might have of service, it's somebody who doesn't have a suit or a character on, but has chosen to be more of a pure helping energy. So it could be your same spirit guide, but just in a different incarnation as an angel, but they don't want to represent themselves as the spirit guide that you knew, because you associate them with that. Whereas when they're in angel form, they're there when you're in your deepest moments of grief, for example, and you cry out or you pray. And then so they act, and they're like the messengers from source energy or God or whatever you want to call the creative energy, to be like a nurse. You know, they're there to be the mother figure, the nurse, the helping, nurturing figure. An archangel is a much more concentrated energy, and they have healing rays associated with them. So each archangel has a different color. And so you and I are both wearing green today. And so that is the color of the green ray, and the green ray is associated with Archangel Raphael. So we can say that it can be signified that you and I are both wearing green today because either we need healing, we like the color because it resonates with the heart chakra, maybe we're sending out heartfelt messages, maybe we are being the archangels' beacons of hope and healing into the world. But also, so the color green associates with the heart chakra. But also, like Archangel Michael is the blue ray, and they have specific different rays. Archangel Zadkiel is associated with the purple ray, it's the violet ray, and each of the different rays do different healing things. So when I take people to the between live states after a session, then the various archangels that are required will come in and do healing to the various parts of the various bodies, the physical, the mental, the etheric, the emotional, all the different layers of the auric field, and the different rays will be used either individually or all at once, depending upon the healing that is required. So I'll just stop there because I just said a lot, and I'll let you see if you have any questions about that.
No, it's fascinating, right? Because obviously the question I want to ask specifically is because I know that you work with Archangel Michael and Archangel Zadkiel.
Yep.
Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know that you work with those two angels the most. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what they do and how they serve, because I've heard people say, for example, Archangel Michael, and I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly, comes around when you're going through some sort of transition in life. I don't know if that's accurate. Please correct me if you need to, but I just want to dive deeper into what their role is in addition to healing. But I also know that they show up in our lives at different points, especially when we're dealing with certain things. Sorry, before you even answer that, there was a question I think follows up better with everything that you were saying before. And I want to know, what realm do archangels reside in? Are they in the fifth dimension, which people call some people say that's the lower level of heaven, or are they higher up in the heaven dimension, if you know that?
Yeah, okay, yep. So they are the archangels are the purest of energy, so they're 12th dimension in my mind. Okay? I find dimensions confusing, okay? Because we exist in all dimensions at once. Our soul doesn't belong to a dimension. Our soul is multi-dimensional, interdimensional. We're a multi-dimensional being. So you may and I may be here right now on Earth on the third dimension or the fourth dimension or the fifth dimension, whatever you believe according to the people that talk about ascension as to where we are. But your soul is incarnated on this planet and in others and in other dimensions and in other frequencies. So we are everywhere all at once. We are all levels from the first to the 12th and beyond. There's more than 12 dimensions. That's just all that we've discovered so far. So if you describe heaven as the fifth dimension, if that's the language that you resonate with, well, then they obviously have to exist at the fifth dimension. But they also are not related to religion, and heaven is a religious construct. So therefore, if they're the first energy of the world that was created, then they reside at the very original dimensional energetic level. So the answer is always very frustrating. Both.
That makes sense. It does make sense to me. I can see what you're saying there about the confusion with where they reside, because I'm like you said, we're interdimensional beings. If we're interdimensional beings, archangels are definitely interdimensional beings, and I'm sure they move through different dimensions. But I was just curious if there was like a specific angelic realm or a dimension where, like, if after going through all the different dimensions they go home and kind of reside in. That was, what I was curious about. But it makes sense that you would hypothesize that it's probably the 12th dimension, which is the highest dimension that we're currently aware of.
Yeah,
Okay, so sorry to derail the
that's right.
conversation, but wanted to go back to what specific roles do Archangel Michael and Archangel Zadkiel have, because those are the two I think you work with the most.
Yes. And so this is where I was saying you can grab any angel book that you like, where humans have tried to classify angels into roles to help us cope with them. So Archangel Michael has always been written about in the religious literature as being the right hand of God, the main messenger. He's also been depicted as a savior in the battles between good and bad, which is a construct of duality. So, he's the one that had the spear that killed Satan or the devil or whatever you want to call that energy. So we all have a particular resonance with Michael if you're open to it, and he makes most women blush because he comes in, all of the depictions we have of him in history as the strong buff one. Do you know what I mean? He's our version of Thor. He's the toned and muscular one. He's the blonde golden beauty, but he's also masculine. He defines the masculine energy in us historically. But an angel and an archangel is neither masculine nor feminine. It's just energy. And so you and I, confusingly, are neither masculine nor feminine. It's just that right now we are playing a game called I'm going to try to be a female this time, right? And so Archangel Michael says to me, well, you strongly resonate with me as a masculine and as a savior, rescue. I'm your man in your time of distress. But that doesn't also define me. I am both masculine and feminine. But how do you want to see me? How do you want to interact with me? How does your personality work with me? And so when I see him, I don't usually see him as the way that he's depicted in history. I don't know if you remember watching the movie Singing in the Rain, the old black and white movie.
No.
It's back in the Hollywood classics era. So it's Fred Astaire, and so he's tap dancing. He's got his black tail suit, formal suit on, and he's got his tap shoes on, and he's got a top hat. And that's how Archangel Michael presents himself to me. And that seems ridiculous to me, but it also resonates very strongly with me. And when I take clients into past life regression sessions and they go to the between lives or heaven or the afterlife or whatever you want to call that energetic location, they have said to me, by the way, Archangel Michael tips his hat to you. And I'm like, you can see that too? And they're like, and they laugh. And, you know, or the next time Archangel Michael bows, you know, and they will see him in that suit because he's projecting an image to them to project an image to me, so that if I have any doubts in my mind that he's there or not, or I wonder because he's been silent in a session, he'll do something funny or cheeky or a symbol, and then they will see it and then it will confirm it for me, and it's like a reassuring role. So I guess for me, he's been both prominent but also in the background, and he encourages me all the time to let him go because I've become quite reliant on his presence. And what he has been trying to teach me in the last few years is, you don't need me. Well, I know you can see I always just like burr up. But he's like, because he's been around in so many of my incarnations. But, you know, and I get this nudge, you know, immediately since the start of this session as Archangel Zadkiel. I was like, well, you know, like, I've been around too, but you always see him because, you know, you're in love with him. And most people fall in love with the masculine identity when they're in the female role. But remember, it's because we are all copies of the archangels. So there's always an aspect of the archangels in us. And so we're not in love with them. We're seeing an aspect of ourselves in their energy. That's what we're responding to. And that's why so many people say, Archangel Michael is my angel. Yes, because we are a copy. If you want to say that he's the first of the archangels, and then we're all copies of him and all the other archangels. So therefore, the aspects of his bravery and warrior-likeness are the aspects of ourselves that we are seeing reflected in him. But yes, when I'm in the masculine, they show me, well, Archangel Zadkiel showed me how he appeared to me, tried to, poor fella, in many Roman incarnations where I was in battle. And I only recently discovered this when talking on another podcast, really interestingly. He showed me a great big flash of the difference between how I see him in Roman times. I saw him as like a Roman soldier, ghost, warrior, angel. And I used to call him the Roman ghost, apparently. The Roman ghost angel. And so if you can imagine a Roman, and then you put the angel wings on him in battle, but make him translucent, because I refused to acknowledge him and I thought him as a ghost. And that was quite normal because, let's say, the Romans were fairly bloodthirsty, right? And so you're surrounded by all that negative energy and that warlike. And so he's trying to come through, but it's really thick with the anger and the lust and the hatred and the conquering. And so therefore he appears in my mind when I'm in those masculine incarnations as translucent, almost like a ghost, because he's trying to get through to help me, but he can't get through. So now that I've made that connection, okay, and he shows me, that's interesting, that's the first time he put a face. He showed me his curly hair, which is brown, whereas I see Archangel Michael in my mind as blonde. So he's just showed me, and he showed me an association, because they always show you what you know in relation to. My son has very curly hair at the moment. He was curly as a young boy, like a baby, and then he brushed the curls out, and then now as an adult he's let the natural curls come, and I love it. And he just showed me the same curls, the same sort of curly hair. So we see them differently according to the incarnation that we're in and then what they're here for. So I heavily relied on Archangel Michael in the early days of spirit releasement therapy, but Archangel Zadkiel sort of came storming in out of nowhere and was assisted in on all of the sessions. And then he's sort of not taken over, but he's the main energy that comes in now. It's kind of like Michael's gone, I've handed over to him, you know, let me go. I'm busy with everyone else who still knows me. You know, there's a million people pinging thoughts to me all the time. Archangel Michael, I need you. Nobody's calling out for Zadkiel, so here you go, he's all yours.
So I know I've heard people say that if you are in time of distress, call out to this angel. If you need help with your finances, call out to this angel. So what do people usually call out to from Angel Zadkiel? What does he come in to help people with?
Yeah, so he's known as the angel of mercy and compassion and divine intervention. So yeah, he's also depicted as a battle-like person in historical representations, but whereas Archangel Michael has the long spear or a really long sword of some sort, Archangel Zadkiel has a dagger. And so he's willing to stab you in the heart with the divine white light if your heart is clouded by fear. He's willing to let the dark energy out, because we all go through dark incarnations. We all go through incarnations where we're surrounded by wars, and we just absorb all the energy around us. So he's the one, if you want to look at it like Archangel Michael looks at the high level of stuff and the global stuff, then Archangel Zadkiel is very focused on the energetic resonance of the individual and the individual person who's struggling. So he's the one that will help you confront your demons.
Okay, that makes sense, which I think makes sense why you work with him, especially in the work that you do. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But the one thing I do want to ask is you just mentioned now that they both kind of are depicted with having some sort of sword or dagger in their hands. And I know that in the Bible and in other religious texts, they talk about how angels are warriors. So, what is that narrative about them being warriors? Are they fighters against the evil one or bad energy? Why are they depicted a lot of times as warriors?
Yeah, so that comes back to the fact that Earth is a construct of duality. So Earth and everywhere in our universe has chosen to be in the experiment called duality. And in the experiment called duality, there is light and dark. Because, you know, the universe, the multiverse, the creation was created out of darkness, right? And there's an explosion, and from that explosion comes light. But we have chosen to experiment and have intensive soul growth by being in a planet that has a different density to the rest of the universe. And so in other planets and locations and dimensions where it's just all love and light, they don't have the contrast, right? And so we have good and evil here, because that's what we're learning about, is contrast, and how to be the fact that it's the same energy but from a different perspective. So you may class somebody's actions as being evil, but they may say, I did it to save my wife's life, so I did it from a pure intention, or whatever it is. So therefore our angelic representations and our archangels, they need to be seen as warriors of the light, helping us fight against the darkness. But in all truth, there are angels of darkness as well. And I think there are the same on, one of my friends is an actor in Hollywood, and he's just been in a show that's called, I don't know if it's Angels and Demons, but it's about the good and the bad archangels. But you see, there has to be a dark version of Archangel Michael and a light version of Archangel Michael, because he's energy. You can't destroy energy. It's created. And so the way they show me this is through the representation. It's like a double-sided doll. You know, the darkness is there to teach us a lesson. That's why duality exists. The darkness is to teach us about the construct called fear. And because we are all pure energy, and your thoughts are your energy, right? Thoughts manifest things, right? Thoughts are the ultimate communicating tool of the universe. Your thought sends out energy. We can actually there are great books where mediums have drawn the energetic representation of thoughts. You know, anger is like a hook, and it's red and black, and it hooks into the energy of the person that the angry thought is being sent toward. So the energy of the emotion and of the thought, yes, exists because you think it, because you responded to a situation in a certain way. But there's a lesson inside that, right? And the lesson is what you've come here to unpack and learn about, so that you can then be an alchemist and transform that negative energy whilst you're in duality into positive energy. Because if we're all sitting around here, in our golden robes and, having cups of rose tea, then we wouldn't be learning anything. So there's a team of energy that is called the Dark Angels that are here in service to teach us about the darkness of our thoughts, about the darkness of our emotions, about the darkness in duality, about war, about fear, about greed, about the misuse of lust, and all of the emotions that we have. And if you stay in that energy, then you're going to keep creating that energy. And so they have, the way that they've shown it to me is, this is just an act of their service. Just as we incarnate and we have so-called good incarnations and so-called bad incarnations, so do angels and energetic beings volunteer to do both, because it's exciting for them too. They've got to grow as well.
Okay, so you just opened a can of worms in terms of questions.
I know, sorry.
I mean, what you said about there being dark angels, I've never thought about that, but I should have, because, there's this principle of as above, so below. And there's a opposite of everything in this world that you can potentially think of, everything in this universe. So that makes sense. But even with you saying that, right, that sparked something in me when you talked about evolution, right? I kind of thought, when, at least as it pertains to angels, right, that they don't need to go through some sort of evolution because they're perfect. So the dark angels, are they archangels in the way we think of the archangels working in the light, the purest form of energy? Or are these dark angels potentially, for example, human beings who've lived a horrible life in terms of causing pain and destruction, and then they choose to reincarnate as dark angels, or work in the service of being a dark angel to show people the darkness, to help them evolve and transmute negative emotions? I'm just trying to understand at what level of creation are they? And you talked about evolution, so do angels also have to learn lessons? That was a lot there. I hope you understand the question I'm trying to ask, and I can explain a little bit further if I confused you.
Okay, so I don't have the answer to that, but if you're open to it, I can bring in Zadkiel and he can answer it for you.
Please. I love that.
Okay. All right, so just give me a second, because my mind was racing and he's like, just let me in. All right. Okay, so here we go. So we are all created out of darkness, because you need darkness to create, because darkness forms in, like, if you imagine a mother's womb, it's the same in the universe. You need some peace and quiet for a while, and the creator does need to, in essence, think about what the creator wants to do, whether you call that source or God or Lakshmi or any kind of a godlike figure that you like to think of. They all need to project their energy, and that energy comes in different forms, and it can come as sound, and it can come as thoughts, it can come as energy which is visualized. So even lightning is a form of a thought, if you so want to speak. It's part of the atmosphere, thinking there's too much energy up here and I need to move this energy, and I need to get some water to come with me, so I'm going to strike at the land and put a crack in it and allow the water, which contains the minerals and the nutrients for the land, to get into the earth, as well as the language of thought, which is called light language, which we put inside of the thunderbolt. So lightning strikes are both devastating because they can burn down houses, they can kill people, they can burn down trees, but they also contain the nourishment that the land and Mother Gaia needs, encoded in light language, because it's like sending a message of ants scurrying into the earth with instructions as to what to do next for the earth's nourishment. So, but everything has to come out of darkness, out of nothing. And then this, for want of a better word, thought is projected and something is created. So the creation can be, according to the direction of the thoughts, both light or dark. But to be the truth of it being known, it just depends upon how it's chosen to be expressed. So the creator could be expressing extreme dissatisfaction at the state of the energy in a particular nation and have a thought, and that thought could materialize as a bushfire or some kind of a natural event to try and calm the situation down. But depending upon the perspective of which you look at it, you will either say that it's regenerating or it's destroying. So exactly the same happens with the archangels. We have never been, in your words, born. We were always there, but there was a spark that was created to create our energy. And so when we are created, our energy splits into two. And many of you humans have discussed the concept of a twin flame, which we won't go into now, which is essentially the sparking of a masculine and a feminine energetic display of a human being. And so you could also say, and we won't say it this way, but an example could be that the feminine energy is stereotypically nurturing and the masculine energy is stereotypically warring, that sort of, like bold, adventurers, seeking, conquering, that sort of thing. But also the same is of the energy of neutrality. So the energy of the archangels and of all human beings is also not gender specific. There is a neutral space as well, a space between where you are neither positive nor negative, not just dark nor light. And Katische has seen this with the being that she calls time immemorial, who exists in between time, in between the space of light and darkness. And she can hear this being because she has adjusted her spiritual hearing to a level that is in between where you would normally hear at a normal human being. So it's very quiet and very distant, but very different to the way that she hears other beings. And so we are all at once. We are neutral, we are positive, we are negative. And so when we are required to help in our negative state, we do, as you would say, don the suit of darkness, go down and descend to the dimensions or the realms or the frequencies where there is much anger, there is much devastation, there is much courage, there is much confusion, there is much frustration. And see, people in that state also need help because they are clouded by everything that is around them, because they are energetically in resonance with those dark emotions, those dark thoughts. And whilst we, if you wanted to say had a preference, would like to be the shiny golden blonde ones, we also do find it quite fascinating to be in the dark suit. We find it quite exciting because there's a lot of energy down there. It's like being in the middle of a thunderstorm. And we also do find it quite devastating because we are there in the capacity of, say, Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet. You could see him as devastatingly handsome. You could see him as a victim. You could see him as a hero. But we can see all things all at once. And so we have this, you would say, energetic thought stream communication between our light selves and our dark selves. And our dark self says, yeah, let's get into this. Let's help them get rid of this frustration and anger, and we'll do it one more time, and they can do all the disastrous deeds that they wanted to explore to help them understand karma and thoughts and the manifestation of their actions and behaviors. But there's also this ping that comes from the golden girl kind of sort of character, and she just saw the image of the Golden Girls, that TV show. But anyway, I don't know why she saw that, where we laugh and we say, oh my God, here they go again. But we'll try again, we'll ring the bell, and we will try to get through this message of light to them so they can step aside, because we, the angels in our suit of the darkness, are also kind of tired. We're sick of doing this over and over again to try and get this message through to this land, to this earth, to these people that keep reincarnating in these cycles of destruction, who keep trying to own the land, conquer the people, do all the destructive things to explore their soul's growth. But we're like, you live in a duality situation and time is ticking. Time is only relevant to where you live, and we can see your clock is ticking. And what we want you to do is this time, for once and all, move towards the light. Even if we just get you to neutrality, then that would be great, because we're tired of this. So how about the earth is tired of you having battles and wars as well, and you're hurting the vibration of the earth by putting all your thoughts into the earth. And Mother Gaia does have to process that and filter it, and it's heavy for her. And we don't want you to have to spend all of your time exploring the darkness. It's time to explore the light. And so sometimes we do this for a long time, and then sometimes they finally get the message and they see the light within their soul, because even the darkest of the hell beings are created from your mind. Hell or heaven or any of the religious constructs that you have are simply energetic, from energetic terms, a state, a special dimension, a special window, if you'd like to say, that is opened up to you, for you, so that you can say, hey, I need a break. I need to think about what I've done this time. I'm rather worried. I'm rather frustrated. I'm rather sad. I don't have the space or capacity right now to understand what I've done. I'm not ready for the great big shiny angel or whatever you think would take you to the next lifetime or the resting space. So we'll just open up this space, and you can sit here and you can look back at everything that you've done. You can see the horror that you have created. And you can also think, right, well, that's done. Now, how do I get out of here? But you see, you're still in the resonance with the negativity and the thoughts, and all the people that you killed are there as well. And they also need a hand up. So will we provide the service of prodding you and poking you? And your thought creates all these different sorts of thought forms and actual beings, because a being is simply energy. And your mind is the most powerful thing there is. And so you can create an entire being and an entire thought form based on how you are feeling, how you're behaving, and how you are thinking. And so the people in the window of the space that we would call a resting, reviewing state, but in the lower density frequency, they do create the most awful hell states, which have then been painted on walls and written in books, which reinforces that imagery. And so Michael in the light would say, so we would like to inspire people to paint beautiful things and angels and cherubs, to inspire people in their darkest moments in the thought that there is a being that will take me up to the light, but I just have to get my thoughts right so I can actually see the being. So I know that is sort of not what you asked, but sort of what it is also, because it's just a perspective. And so we see ourselves not just split in two, but split into billions of different ways that we choose to serve, because the darkness does serve a purpose. And we don't wish people to worship the darkness. We wish people to understand that their thoughts in this duality, in this current state known as Earth, their thoughts create their actions, create their behaviors, create their habits, create the beings. And then we have to come down to help you, and we take on those form of the dark angels. And if you say, please help me kill this person, I need to get this land for this resource, we will say, sure, I'm in the role, I'm here to help you, let's go do it. And we will help you create devastation. And we don't really think about us in the light, but there is a version of us in the light going, no more, and we can't really hear them. And it requires a heart opening space, which is why the two of you wore green today, because you can influence your state of mind and being by simply understanding the colors that you do see and the vibration that represents. So green is for healing. So we hope that this color does transmit heart resonance, because both pink and green are the colors of heart resonance that humans do see significant, so that if they're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever you post this, or they're listening to it on the podcast, color has a vibration that is attached to sound. And so the Katische is speaking right now, a bit like the movie Wicked that's out at the moment, an elixir of green. If you were to see her words and they put the x-ray machine or whatever you want to call it to look at the energy, you would see she's speaking green. And she's also very simply concentrating on an image of an aura, which she has posted on her wall with blue tack. And it is the, Northern Lights. And it's blue and green. So she's staring at blue and green. She's speaking blue and green, because there is a component of Archangel Raphael, who's standing here beside me, but blue and green and purple all mix and match in harmony, and so does the gold and the white that is in there. So we are transmitting both color for sight, vibration and sound, and a healing message to help humanity understand there are many ways in every moment, in every day, that you can interact with us. And don't be feeling ashamed if you are interacting with the dark versions of us, because it is, after all, us. And we will help you learn to open your heart chakra and to connect your heart with your mind, with your gut, and so that you can radiate and vibrate a higher frequency. And so, yes, we don't do like a soul incarnation like Katische speaks of, but it's sort of like a challenge, sort of like an adventure, and we sort of give each other's badges and high fives, and, you know, if you want to put that in a personification way. But it's also sort of the creator saying, Mother Gaia has said, I, as a being of energy inside your humanity, has increased my vibration. But you guys on Earth have not increased your vibration. And you are going to be very soon out of alignment with me. And I love you very much, and I want you to stay with me. So please increase your vibration, because I am moving towards a higher vibration. I am wanting to move out of duality. It's too heavy for me to carry. Are you going to come with me? And that is all we would like to say for now.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question, please, for clarification?
Sure. Oh, he's gone, but
Oh,
yeah,
he's
I
gone.
can try.
Okay, that's fine.
There's a point at which they monitor my brain, and they're like, it's too hot.
It's too much.
It's
Okay,
too
no,
hot.
we won't bring him back. Thank you so much for that. So where are you when you're channeling him? Where are you in your body? Where are you in your mind? Are you kind of taking a back seat and he's at the forefront when you're channeling him?
Well, I would put it best like an interpreter, you know, like when you see an interpreter taking somebody on a tour, and they're a native speaker in English, let's say, and sorry, this piece of hair is going to annoy me because
No, it's okay. I mean, I can imagine that was a lot of energy that you just brought through. My ears were even ringing more than usual when I have my headphones in, and I could sense the energy was palpable, and just you talking, it was just a stream of consciousness just coming through. So
yeah, it makes me. I'm just going to have to deal with it.
Maybe that's what you were sensing.
It makes me very hot. And they have to be careful of my brainwave function because it can overheat. So yeah, it's like being an interpreter. It's like, you know, you hear both, but you're just focused on translation. So I'm still Katische, I'm still me, but the translation, what comes out is the light language that he speaks put into me. I process it and it comes out human, but with his personality, and he can only use the lexicology and the terminology, the language based upon my experience. So each channel can give you a different message because they can only relate to if you don't have the experience, if you haven't done this, you haven't seen this, there's no words. So they can only interpret according to Katische's language and the Katische's soul's experience. So I'm there, but I'm focused on the translation, but I don't even think about the translation because it's so not refined, but concentrated, because I've had to learn to write light language, and I've learned to try and speak it as well. And so it's like fine-tuning a radio dial so that with practice you can receive the message without even having to interpret it. It's a bit like when somebody wants to learn to be a medium, they have to go through processes and see the signs and understand the correlations of what the spirit is talking about, the person in the afterlife. It's exactly the same for the angels. You have to tune into their frequency, and you have to practice enough so that there's no delay in the translation. So it becomes a pure channel.
Yeah, amazing, fantastic. Do you remember what he was saying? Because I know some channels say that once they get back fully regain their consciousness as just themselves, they don't fully remember everything that they said, but some people are able to hear what they were saying. How does it work for you?
Yeah, so I don't trans channel. Trans channel is where you like completely leave your body and your consciousness sort of is beside you. No, I don't do that. I'm fully here, fully conscious. It's just that my body heats up and my heart space opens, and then I just let the words flow out. So I'm fully awake and conscious at the time. So right now, I remember what he says, and I'll think I've remembered it, but I'll actually probably watch back this interview so that I can remember the specifics of what I said, because I remember the generalizations, but I don't remember the specifics.
Yeah, fascinating. One thing, the two things my brain locked onto is it sounds like angels go down into darker realms as well to pull people into the light. And it also sounds as though they do help people facilitate their intentions, though they might be negative, and eventually in the hopes of getting them to see the light at some point. That was kind of what I was picking up, but I have to go back and listen to it as well because there was so much there that I feel like my brain was racing to catch up to, what you were channeling. So I have to go back and listen to that myself. But it was a powerful and fascinating thing to witness.
I think the main thing that they want to convey also is that humans have free will. Okay, so an
Yes.
angel in either way, light or dark, can not agree with what you're doing, despite the purest or worst of intention, but it's your free will. You decide your action, and so they can't intervene unless you ask for help.
So do we always have to ask for help before they intervene, or are they always walking with us, right? Or do we have to call upon Angel Michael, I need your help at this moment? And how do we know when we're working with Archangel Michael in the light versus his potential dark doppelganger?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's an experience thing. You've got to work it out yourself. I've had to work that out the hard way. Lots of people have had to work it out the hard way. And all I will say in that component is it depends how you're resonating. And how you're resonating is to check your thoughts. Are you depressed? Are you anxious? Are you fearful? How are people behaving around you? And it's not to criticize you, because you may have come in with a list of things that you want to achieve in this incarnation, and maybe you want to explore anger. And maybe you've attracted angry people in your life so that you could explore that. And so you will have also been set up with a team of angels and archangels and spirit guides who are there to assist you. But you have free will. They can wave a flag of surrender in front of your face. The angel of hope can hold his big lantern right in front of your eyes. And if you choose not to see it, because you choose to interact with the emotions that are associated with the anger and the fear, then you won't see it. They can't make you see it. So they just try and leave signs and symbols and try and get right in your face to help you. But, they're not going to get in your way because in some aspects, you have chosen to experience certain things because it gives you a different perspective and it gives you growth. And it's very frustrating in the moment. But when you trust in the fact that there will be divine intervention, if you need divine intervention, and if you say, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore, I'm ready to look for the light, for the hope, they will crash their symbols, is what they're showing me, bang on the door. They will shake the world to try and get you to finally hear or see them or feel them. So you're never alone. It's just being responsible for your own thoughts, behaviors, and actions, and then saying, okay, if I can't reach an angel, it might be because my vibration is not right. And so which human being can I reach out to that is the closest in frequency to me that I can get a small dose of healing from, right? Integrate that next level of healing. And slowly in different areas,
Yeah.
there will be different. It's a bit like vanilla ice cream. If it's made from vanilla bean, it's going to have tiny little black dots in it. That's the vanilla pod. Do you know what I mean? The vanilla. So there's, always a shade of black in everything.
Yeah, exactly. So really quickly, because I do want to talk about how your work with the angels help you work with people to find their soul's happiness. But I do want to touch a little bit on angel numbers since you brought up symbols and signs that our angels can send us sometimes. So are angel numbers really from angels? Because people say that sometimes your spirit guides might send you signs, but when we see repeating numbers, are those specifically from angels most of the time?
Like I said, it can be from anyone. It depends who you're working with.
Yeah.
Essentially, they're just numbers, right? But they contain the frequencies within those numbers. And so sometimes we see a lot of numbers because we need reassurance, right? And so we'll turn on the computer at 11:11, and everything that day will be, we'll have a cup of tea at 2:22, and and we'll be like, isn't that interesting? There's a lot of signs today, and no matter how many times you tell yourself what each one means, you probably have to go and look them back up, because in each day there's a different interpretation. Somebody might have written out a whole list of what each number means, but on that day, the only thing that resonates is sentence number 3 in that paragraph about what the energy means for you that day. But it's just another form of a sign. It's like a feather or a rainbow or a 4-leaf clover or whatever you want to do. It's sent to you by whoever is best able to communicate with you at that time. So if it's an angel, then yes, the angel is sending you that message. But if it's your Jiminy Cricket spirit guide, they can help you as well, because I've had spirit guides take over the energy of a computer screen before and show me something that was impossible to see, to communicate with me that I did cross over ghosts, for example. And I have also had negative beings and entities take over a computer screen and shake it in a spirit releasement session. So that is to show the client as well as me that there is a negative entity in there in case somebody is doubting it. So again, guidance comes from both sides in all directions. It's just, who are you attuned to? Who can get through at that moment in time to effectively communicate to you? Because if the dark being can only get through, that's fine. Sure, it's scary, but it's also like, you'll be scared of them until you're not. And when you're not, and you see the light within them, their heart opens and boom, they transition into the light. They're no longer scary because you found the wisdom within.
That's so fascinating because, again, I keep trying to wrap my head around the duality of our existence, right? The good and what people would define as the not so good, right? And the resonance matching, the entity attachments to, in terms of what are you in resonance and what is attached to you. And a lot of times, sometimes those things can be negative, right? And dealing with that and sitting with it and making space for it, because we're taught to kind of shun the dark, which makes a lot of sense, guys. We want to transmute the darkness. We essentially want to raise our vibration and be in the light. I like to reside in the light. I would like to say that I often work on my frequency and my resonance to make sure that I am in harmony with the lighter part of our interdimensional existence. But again, I live on this 3D planet and I see the duality within myself and also outside. So just I don't want to say making space for the dark, but what I keep hearing, my intuition is telling me, it's not about making space for it. It's about not necessarily being too scared of it. And when you're not scared of it, similar to what you said, it's almost like that energy is transmuted and turned into the light almost. So there's a lot there. I don't want to keep going down that rabbit hole because we've had so many discussions on this. I kind of want to switch gears now and talk about your work in helping people find their true happiness, especially as it pertains to their soul. So why did you decide to do this work? Why did you decide to help people kind of figure out what their soul's happiness is?
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but it's quite amusing because the Archangel Michael and Archangel Zadkiel get a little bit frustrated. And again, see, frustrated. That's my interpretation of it. They're like, it doesn't frustrate us, but I interpret it as frustrated. That everybody comes to sessions going, what's my purpose? And they're like, well, your purpose is, what have you decided? You decided to be Katische, and your purpose is to be Katische. Okay, all right, but I'm here for something bigger than that. Okay, bigger than your own self, right? Yeah, no, but okay, what would you like it to be? Well, I see, I'm exploring all these things and all these things keep happening. All right, well, so that's your karma. All right, and so I've explored all of these dark things and these emotions, and I'm a bit tired of that now. It's exhausting. All right, well, how about you explore the happiness, the happy memories? If you're only getting through healing sessions, intense removal of negative energies, if you keep doing that, we're going to keep doing that work. Okay, you want to keep coming back from spirit releasement therapy? Let's go. Because every single thought you have can attract negative energy. So are you tired of that? because the more you look at that, the more you're going to get there. How about we look at the happiest memories of your soul so that you can show yourself through all time what has made you vibrate at neutrality, peace, joy, happiness, and love. Right? You want to discover this for a while. Oh, but I should be working on this. Oh, well, how about you take a break and teach about this for a while and show people. Okay, all right. So I call it a directive. They call it not a directive. They call it a suggestion. Oh, so you've done a lot on your podcast, Katische. You've done 140 episodes where we've explored the darkness and all of our wonderful different cycles: love, lust, anger, greed, joy, hatred, sadness. How about we just do joy for a while? Okay, all right. Well, I don't even know where to go with that. Just put them in regression. Bring the angels in and we'll go for an exploration. Okay, all right, but you don't have to control it. We're in control. Okay, all right. And so that's what we did. I just went, right here, in my words, they've told me to do this. Who wants to volunteer? Well, it's not true they pay to be part of the session, but who wants to explore their soul and show what the happiest moments of the soul is? And I don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be different for every person. And I don't think we're going to go into an incarnation where you got a Lamborghini, but maybe you did, and maybe that is one of the happiest moments of your soul. But we'll explore at least 5 moments and we'll see where it goes. So that's where that came from.
Okay. Do you have any stories, either with yourself or a client that you worked with, that they discovered something that brought them pure bliss in different lifetimes, and they were probably being directed to do in this life, but they weren't paying attention to?
I think that, so I will give you some examples, but I think what I found mostly is that in each of the sessions, they've shown people the ridiculous, according to human perspective, of, oh, I can't believe that it's even possible that I have done that. And they've shown them the mundane. Oh, is it as simple as that? So an example of that, the ridiculous, is that, and it was only a very small section of a regression, we took the most loveliest lady into, so she'd been in a number of past lives, and then she just suddenly went, she started laughing. She said, oh, literally, this is ridiculous. I said, what's up? She said, I'm inside a comet. What do you mean you're inside a comet? Well, I'm a rock, and I'm inside a comet, and I'm hurtling through space. Okay, I haven't had this one before. Right, let's go. What do you know? Well, I'm a rock, but I'm also not a rock, but I'm observed as a rock, basically, and I'm feeling very proud. Okay, how can a rock feel proud? Well, I'm not a rock, but I am a rock, I'm with all my, I guess the word would be co-workers, and we are going on a mission. Okay, and you want to tell us more about that? Well, I have been selected to be in this position right now inside of this comet, and so I'm feeling very proud of my achievements to have been selected. Okay, and so all the people surrounding me it's kind of like fangirling, you know what I mean? Like, wow, must have done something good. I'm in this comet. And where are you hurtling to? And we moved out. And the reason was that the destination and what they were going to do was not the happiest moment of her soul. The selection process and being surrounded by these esteemed beings who she was asked to join to complete the mission was one of the happiest moments of her soul. So what she had to do may have been devastating or dark or warrior-like, but in that moment, in that time, her soul locked in and remembered on that bliss and that joy for being acknowledged and being asked to be selected. Does that make sense from that perspective?
Yeah, it does. It does. So what were some of so essentially, it seemed like if somebody were to try to interpret it a bit further, she had a lot of bliss when she was part of a community working on a shared mission, shared goal, being selected or being chosen to be part of a community or a group of people working towards something.
Yes, so you could look at it at that level, but for her, that wasn't what it was. So for her, she is learning to explore her spiritual path in this lifetime and to use her energy. And so for her, her sessions were very intensely focused on understanding the level of spiritual being she is and the good that she can do. And she had never, ever done a past life regression session. And what it showed her was that she was an infinite being, and that it blew her mind, so to speak, because, you know, 1 minute she was in a lifetime where she was a little boy fishing in a river, and the next minute she was in the sky. So it was like an accelerated form of learning. And yes, you could say it's about community and that brings her joy, but actually no, what brings her joy is exploring her soul and all the different ways that she interacts, so that she knows that she's just not whatever her name is. She is more than that, and that she's following the right steps to explore and understand her energy that she has while she's in this form. But there's so much more that she can do than just be what she has been. The time was ripe for her to develop. And so that's why she was appealed to the session, because she's like, okay, so she'd just been through a very dark time because her mother had died of dementia, you know, and she thought her future was going to be to develop resources and communities regarding dementia. And then she did all these sessions to find out what her joy brought. And if you wanted to look at the common threads, what we do is we do a big live analysis of each session. So I do the session 1 and session 2, which are on the podcast, and then the 3rd and the 4th sessions are just us watching them back and her realizing what she's learned and me putting in some extra layers of interpretation for her. And she was in awe of herself, you know, where, you know, we teach people to dumb it down and not appreciate themselves and to not be boastful in those kind of words. But what they were saying is, yes, you have done some amazing things. There was some stuff that you needed to learn, but we also want you to explore more. We want you to expand your capacity, because she was the kind of person who, when she would go through airports, she would shut down. Just her energy was so big that she would shut down ATMs or security, because she wasn't releasing that energy and using it. She was just starting to dabble in Reiki. So I'm talking like this supreme energetic being who's only just starting to learn Reiki. And I'm like, girlfriend, you got some serious energy here that you're meant to use in this lifetime. So get to know yourself. And that's what they tell us all the time, is get to know yourself. Don't worry about what's going on in the world out there. Your job is to get to know yourself. So for example, and this ties in nicely with the angel concept. So in this lifetime where she was a little boy, she lived on a farm in America. And so I don't know the exact location, but what I saw was like the big red barns, you know. And she took us to this moment and she's like, where are you? And she's like, well, I'm on the river's edge and my feet are in the water and I'm a little boy. And I said, well, what are you doing? She said, fishing. And I said, are you catching anything? She's like, no. And then I cottoned onto it. I could see. I'm like, that's an interesting fishing rod you've got. And let's call him he, because he was a little boy. He's like, yeah, I know, it's just a stick. But I'm pretending. Okay, you having fun? Yeah, I'm having a great time, because I've got some time now where I don't have to do my chores, and I'm going to have a swim in a second. So he jumped in and he had to swim, and then he went back and did his chores, and he didn't like doing his chores. He had so many chores to do, but he was okay. And he said, he kept saying in the session, I'm a good boy. And I said, of course you're a good boy, but how do you know that you're a good boy? He said, well, that the angel tells me. Oh, I didn't know you could see angels. Yeah, the angel comes and she talks to me every day and she just tells me over and over again, I'm a good boy. Okay. And in this lifetime, his mother had died early. So he was the eldest child and he was responsible for the majority of the chores. But his father allowed him, or whoever the sibling the carer was, allowed him some small downtime to go and fish, because they were obviously a poor family, with his make-believe fishing rod, and he was at peace and at joy. But he also had peace and joy when the angel came. And I said to him, okay, so can you see the angel right now? And he said, yes, here she is. And so face lights up. I said, take a closer look at the angel. And he said, it's my mummy. But he saw her as a full-blown angel. And so his mum had died early. And she'd not chosen to come back as a spirit guide. She chose to come back in a form that he would understand, because he was a 7-year-old boy, as an angel. He understood angel. And he knew that nobody was punishing him, that God wasn't punishing him because his mother died, that God wasn't punishing him through having too much chores, that there was small moments of joy in his life, and that the angel was always around him telling him he was a good boy, and that's how he coped. And so within all of these different sessions, they show us how in these difficult situations, the team that works with us, our spirit team, always provides us with moments of joy and things, people, cats, animals that help us find the light, even if it's only for a minute a day, in our incarnation. And finding the light in the incarnation doesn't mean that he was a naughty boy. It's just that he had a heavy incarnation with responsibility.
Okay, so a light bulb just went off in my head because I feel like my brain was auto-correcting. So, again, a lot of your work with your clients is to help them find their soul's joy. But for some reason, my brain kept autocorrecting to soul's purpose. But and I don't know if the listeners listening also feel the same way, but you're more exploring moments of joy through their experiences that can probably shed light on things that they need to lean into to experience more joy. And it's less about purpose, but more about joy that obviously could tie into their purpose, whatever they want it to be. But I think that just clicked for me. And feel free to add to what I'm saying.
Yeah, so as I said, we're obsessed about purpose, and that's because we come in with things that we want to do, right? We want to understand emotions, karma, why certain things have worked out or haven't worked out. They're lingering, limiting beliefs that we've accrued in other lives, and vows and all the other constructs that we talk in past life regression therapy, about the things that we didn't finish, sort out, or cope with in other lifetimes. That's why we do past life regression therapy, to heal those so that we don't have them itching at our brain anymore. And a lot of us always go, but do I have a bigger purpose than that? And so the way that they showed me this the most definitively is that sometimes your purpose can be to bring joy and happiness simply through small acts or large acts. And sometimes you can be doing things in your lifetime that don't make sense to you but make complete sense to your soul. And so your soul says, let me just give you a moment of respite so I can show you why you're interested in this thing. And it links to this other incarnation where you are currently doing this. But the energy is so strong because it resonates with the proportion of you that said, I want to complete this in this lifetime so I don't have to do it again. Or I want to understand this further. And so I'll give you the example for myself, because a large proportion of my spiritual growth in this lifetime has come through being very rapidly forced to confront the different sorts of energy, to become a medium, but also to become a ghost rescue medium, to help stuck souls, to work with entities in the light and the dark. And so I'm writing a book about ghosts at the moment, and based on my personal experience. And so I'm like, but all of that work on ghosts was service to humanity. I don't get any clients at the moment that pay for me to remove ghosts for their homes, but yet I work very heavily with ghost and spirit releasement therapy and past life regression therapy. It's like I can't avoid it. If I turn the TV on and there's a show where, like a real show, not a made-up show, where somebody has been murdered and they haven't gone to the light, that energy will come straight flying through the TV to me. And it happens with other ghost rescue mediums, and I've got to call in the angels immediately to take that soul to the light. I can flick through Facebook and somebody will do a cemetery and they'll have like the ghost hunting recording things, and I'll be like, oh God, here we go again. And I have to check, is that person gone to the light? I can't, it's like a compulsion, I can't stop it. And sometimes that can make you almost like borderline, do I feel insane? Is there something wrong with me? And so they showed me, the reason is because you're resonating so strongly with the other incarnations that you're not being Katische. So take a break for a little while and think about, if you got rid of all these things on your to-do list, right? How do you just be Katische? How do you just be Katische? And I'm like, it's a good question. And then I look at the pictures behind me, which are all my photographs, and I'm like, well, I look for the beauty in nature. I like to talk to the angels. I like to teach. And they're like, well, is there any greater purpose than that? They're like, no, but isn't there something greater? And they're like,
Yeah.
How great does it need to be?
I know. As human beings, we just need to know. We need to know that our life matters. And it does. I think what I keep being told recently is that the purpose of life is to just exist, experience things. I think it's important to give meanings to things, but I think we also give too much meaning to certain things. And the movie that keeps popping up in my head is this movie called Soul. It was released by Disney a
Yes.
few years ago, and I didn't understand that movie for a while. I watched it twice, and it finally clicked that the main character who was struggling to come to Earth, they couldn't find a purpose, right? And eventually they realized that the purpose of life is to just experience things and be in joy and live life, right? Whatever that looks like for someone. So, thank you so much for this conversation. Again, I could talk to you forever because we can go down so many different rabbit holes, but I just want to acknowledge that, what a time we live in right now to be able to have these conversations and a lot of people listening to this be able to resonate with it and really have a blueprint to kind of do some self-reflection and think about a lot of the spiritual aspects of their lives that influence us every day. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and for channeling Archangel Zadkiel. Really appreciate that so much. I have to ask, have you shifted in perspective on anything recently? I know that you were just on the show not too long ago, so if you don't have a shift in perspective, that's okay, but of course I have to ask.
I did do excuse me, moving energy, a lot of reflection on my writing process and how much pressure I was putting myself on to write my ghost books, and about this whole thing about that I should and why aren't I doing it. And so eventually there was so much energy ready to go that I went, right, okay, it's now, I'm writing now. And so, but I was perceiving myself against what everyone else says. You should write 1 hour a day, and you should do this, and you should write this join this boot camp and do this, and it should be on this schedule. And they're like, no, if you feel like writing, then because of the nature of the book that you're writing, write it when it's like suddenly feels urgent, because it means the energy is ready and you're just going to channel the stuff for hours on end, and then you'll be like, oh, it's afternoon tea time, right, done. And then you'll be like, I'm going to do that for another week or two or a month or whatever. And they're like, it's okay. You don't have to put these schedules and these goals around everything. It'll get done when it's done. But just look out for the energy, and when it feels like it's the right time and you want to do it, not you should do it.
Thank you for sharing that. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or work with you?
Sure, just head straight to my website, which is katische.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for stopping by Shifting Dimensions, Katische.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Namaste.